Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being the show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season premiere of In the Dark. Great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I really appreciate as this show is going on that it's made this theme of the premieres. Well, it's a running theme throughout the season where you get a flash forward, like, oh man, here's some big mystery you're going to have to be solving. They're, throwing you like little red herrings throughout the season of like, oh, how do we get to this end result? So we have Murphy at the beginning. At first, I was like from behind, I was like, oh, it's like going to be like Max and Leslie. It's like, no, it's Murphy, suitcase full of cash, and her and Darnell. So I'm assuming they're like undercover or something like that, or they're not unless they're doing a deal for Paula later on. We'll get to that, but not unless it's a deal like that. But hard cut to there's a body in the elevator, and Murphy's kind of crying, and she's like, I love you, I'm so sorry. So either one, I don't think it's Darnell, but maybe that's hinting to like, oh, it'd be interesting if it ends up being a Darnell and Murphy thing. I'm still, once again, holding out for Felix and Murphy, because the Max and Murphy train is already like set sail. So I don't know if that's so. My thought is it's either going to be Max, it's going to be Darnell, or it's going to be Felix. I'm leaning towards it still being Max. I think Max is the one that's dead, because obviously it's like, once again, they throw left hooks, they throw red herrings all the time. So you're gonna you know it can't be Darnell because they showed it was Darnell. There's no way it is Darnell. So my money's either on Max or Felix, but I'm leaning more towards Max. I guess there's always this switcheroo where like Josh is there to try and arrest her. He gets caught up in the middle of it and ends up getting killed, and she feels bad about it because he is someone that she did love at one point in time. So maybe, I don't know. But obviously, we're cutting back to where season 3 left off, so that event is 3 months into the future. So this is the night of her getting arrested. Felix is promising, like, right, my sister decided to take your case. I thought that was... I'm assuming she's mainly taking the case for Felix's sake. I mean, because it's also like, right, this is someone that Max cares about, and it's just like, right. Once again, I've said it during my nerd mode, and I'll sing it again. Where this show started off, you do feel bad for Murphy, because this started with her simply just trying to solve her friend's murder, and then just like everything just tailspun from there, So and I should also say, despite all that Murphy's done, I think I said it last season, I'm still hashtag Team Murphy. Like, I'm ride or die with Team Murphy. I've had that conversation come up recently in something else. I'll go ahead and say it was Barry, about, if you're caught up with Barry, which, once again, I've recently gotten caught up with Barry, but Barry is a character you're kind of like, I don't know if I should be Team Barry or not. I'm still hashtag Team Barry, despite him being kind of jacked up, because I can recognize he's jacked up. I can recognize Murphy's jacked up, but I'm always like that, where I'm like, even the characters that might be vilified as evil, I think Murphy's not a bad person. I think she makes bad choices sometimes, and she tries to find a way out of this, and it just digs her deeper and deeper. But at the end of the day, I don't think she's a bad person. Once again, she's getting vilified for being the one that actually killed Nia. She didn't, which is going to cost her life. And I'm curious, will we see any of Jess this season? I haven't looked into it. I don't know if the actress who plays Jess is like gone from the show, or she's going to make some like small integral appearances throughout the season or whatever, because she's probably going to stay as far away from this trial, because you're probably going to feel a little guilty, because it's like, cool, Murphy's on trial for the murder I committed. I mean, granted, it was in self-defense, but it's like, yeah, that's kind of well beyond that at this point in time, considering all the covering up, all the running, and all the legal shit they did to get away with everything. So we're kind of well past that point, but Jess and her went their separate ways, and Murphy made the decision, like, right, you go live your life, I'm gonna take the fall, because she blames herself for everything spiraling out, like, right, she took a look inwards and recognizes, like, right, this is on me, and is trying to make amends with that, I think. But unfortunately for Murphy, things aren't great in jail, because it's like, oh, don't worry, Sam's not here. Oh, just as I had that conversation, lo and behold, who shows up? Sam's like, oh, no, I'm going to kill you for killing Nia. It's like, once again, it's like, she didn't kill Nia, and it's like, cool, you know who Sam is? Sam's the hitter. You know she's going to make it hurt, like, right. You're obviously Murphy's scared, trying not to leave her cell, because Sam was like, yo, you leave your cell, you're mine. So, but it's like, right, you're mandatory. Like, I didn't know that was a thing where, I guess it makes sense because a prison doesn't want its inmates dying of starvation. So it's like, you have to, I mean, I don't know if there's anything that says they have to eat, but it's mandatory at the very least, saying that we're giving you the option to eat, whether you decide to take it or not. That's 100% on you. But it's like, right, we have to make everyone go to the cafeteria to kind of have a mandatory head counting, but also it's like, right, we have to at least show that we are feeding you, putting you in a position to eat. Whether or not you do, that's on you, but still. And cool, Murphy's first meal. Oh, cool. Her mouth starts bleeding. I'm like, oh, awesome. I was like, razor blade? Yeah, razor blade in her sandwich. It's like, cool. Not subtle at all. That's awesome. So Murphy's got it pretty rough. She tried to cut her stick so that she would like, oh, cool. Can I just like wait it out because her bail hearing is like the next day. So she needs to she wants to just stay in her cell, avoid Sam at all possible. But it's like, no, you have to leave. We're going to get you basically a human stick. And it ends up being Savannah, who's really nice. And I think it's so sweet because she's like, oh, she doesn't know how to really operate with Murphy. Because Murphy's used to people surrounding her who know, the last person who had to get readjusted to her circumstances would be like Trey, maybe? Other than that, prior to that would be Max. But obviously Felix and Jess have already kind of been around her long enough to know like her idiosyncrasies and just like how she operates. Like she needs help, but she doesn't want to feel like, she doesn't want you treating her like she's a baby, so... But then we had the whole Sam and Paula thing because it's so interesting because, like, Sam's kind of on her own, but I guess it's like she's got a bit of a chip on her shoulder since Nia died because Nia was kind of her everything, was her foundation. It's like, Nia took me in, gave me this life. I owe her everything. I loved her, and that person was taken from me. I don't know whether she saw Nia. I don't know if she ever said that she saw Nia kind of like a sister in her own right, but whatever the case may be. When it came, so you would think you would be reluctant to kind of go toe-to-toe with Paula, because Paula's like, yo, don't touch my people again, and Sam's like, or else. It's like, you're talking to the person who literally runs this prison. But to be fair, like, Sam has her own connects and stuff like that, too, but I'm still like, I feel like it's not nearly as strong as Paula's, because Paula kind of pretty much runs the prison. In fact, the drugs that Jean and Sarah are investigating, which killed, like, a college student, are her pills that she's peddling. Like, so they were like, oh, we haven't seen this stamp before. So it's Paula, like, Paula must be old school and she must be rebranding it because it's all about filling that vacuum that is Nia's operation. Especially because Josiah bowed out because he's on the run with his children. Can't forget about that. Which, whether or not that cartel comes back into play or not, maybe not. I was so certain they were going to probably be a bigger thing going forward, but I guess, like, well, Josiah on the run, they kind of, and you think maybe they're backing Paula, who's trying to fill that void, or, well, because this is Josiah's baby and not Nia's situation, because I was like, I don't think Nia had the ties to the cartel, did she? Maybe she did, I don't know. I definitely know they were tied to Josiah, so... Because I was trying to figure out who they might be backing in this situation. Would it be Paula? Would it be Sam? Maybe that's why Sam's confident, because she's got, like, hardcore, like, muscle like that backing her up. So, but the moment they introduced the Paula thing, you're like, okay, you can already see the gears turning in Murphy's head. Like, okay, I need to hook up with Paula. Because if I'm one of Paula's people, if I'm one of Paula's girls, like, Sam can't get to me because Paula's going to protect me. Because she looks out for all her girls. And, like, obviously, both of them share the fact is that, like, Sam is an issue, so... But I love when Murphy was alone and Sam rolled up on her, and I was like, okay. I was like, what are you going to do, Murphy? What are you going to do? And she knows that if Sam gets in trouble one more time, she's going to get thrown in kind of the chute or a hole of sorts. So it's like, oh, yeah, like, don't you draw back to being blind? I didn't get to see Nia die. Like, oh, my God, like, oh, getting to see her choke on her life. Like, what would have made that better would have been able to see. I mean, the fact is, I won. Like, that look, to be able to see that look on Nia's face, knowing, like, at the end, despite being top dog, the blind girl, beat her. I won it so easily, and Sam pops off on her. I was like, yeah, and worked out for Murphy, because she's like, oh yeah, I'm getting out of here. The moment she said that, you're like, oh, the funny thing is you're not. You knew immediately, once again, because nothing ever goes according to plan, because for this show, you kind of don't want it to. Once again, I made the comparison to Ozark. I love the whole, I know some people don't like that, like, because some people feel like, oh my, like, you're creating obstacles just to create obstacles. I'm always down for that. I feel like there is easy justification for things spiraling out the way they do, especially because you have Josh. So he's continuing to be an obstacle because he's setting things in motion because he doesn't want to take the chance because he heard Leslie's really good and vicious. So he doesn't want to take the chance Leslie is able to get Murphy out of this. So he's sabotaging all that. Now he's trying to get Leslie on the fact is that she was harboring a fugitive, which could get her, land her in jail, and then Murphy will get some run-of-the-mill, court-appointed lawyer, and she won't have the best defense, and she'll go down for sure. Which you also have to show, like, Josh does not recognize how much of a vendetta this is. Even later on, Sarah's like, you guys got Murphy, like, can't you see Gene is trying to work on this situation? He's trying to stop a new Nia Bailey from being born. And even then earlier, Josh was like, oh, cool, thanks for leaving me high and dry, because we're going to, you know, he wants to go to Murphy's bail hearing. And what is he doing? He's gloating. He's so happy. He went to Leslie, Max, and Felix to be like, oh, the bail hearing's coming out. Yeah, can't wait, and make sure Murphy goes down like hard. And even to the point, Sarah's like, what do you want? You want her to have the electric chair or something? And even Josh was like, well, no. It's like, you seem super giddy about all this, because he's making it seem like this is about justice. To some small extent, it is. It is like, oh, Murphy did some bad stuff, she needs to go down. But the fact is, he's going this hard in the paint last season and this season is because at the end of the day, his pride was hurt. His heart was broken because Murphy, he loved her. He felt like this is someone he opened up to about his eyes getting worse. This is someone he felt a connection to. There was something there. And it's like, right, you found out the person you were in love with used you, manipulated you, and then kicked you to the curb. Like, you're hurt. And that's what most of this is about. You want to make her suffer because she hurt you. It isn't just, yes, there's some part of it that is about justice, but it's also like, right, you're just using that as an excuse. Like, you're going super hard in the paint because you're making it seem like she's some, oh my God, master criminal. It's like, no, like, she has some ideas here and there, but Murphy's fumbling her way through this, just trying to stay one step ahead. She's not some criminal mastermind, even though they kind of paint her as one, you know? But, because the whole situation of Josh kind of making them step into it with the whole Leslie situation, because of that, Leslie and Felix had to go visit their grandmother, which it seems like there's kind of a strenuous thing there, because it's like, oh, he's kind of avoided being around his grandmother for the past like 3 or so years, and it seems like Leslie's done the same thing, which, if I remember correctly from last season, that was the same thing between Leslie and Felix, that they hadn't been on like talking terms for the past couple years either. So they need to, I don't know what their grandmother does either. She just has, because they ended up getting Leslie's situation kicked to a different county or something like that. So either I was about to say, like, not unless their grandmother has, like, you know, like she's someone in the judicial, like, position or something like that. Like, maybe she's in the law enforcement type of area, but I'm thinking she probably just has, like, connections. She's probably, like, rich and powerful enough to pull some strings because she has that type of reach. But it's like, yeah, you're also going to, like, show up more, and you're going to go into this fundraising event or whatever that I have, like, tomorrow. You're all going to show up there, so they're kind of inadvertently have to get dragged into it. Like, the fact is, Felix, like, super against this. I guess it's probably like the relationship's just as bad as it is with their mom, but probably even worse, maybe. I don't remember if they really talked too much about Leslie's relationship with their mom. We know what Felix's relationship is like with their mom, but beyond that, I don't like I said, I don't think I remember them really bringing up Leslie's, but they tackled a little bit about, like, both of their relationships with their dad and the whole heritage situation. Because they were so caught up trying to help Murphy in their own way, they had to help themselves before they could help Murphy. Murphy got a public defender, someone that Leslie called in last second, which is super not cool. They should have set that up well in advance, but it was such a last minute thing that it's like, but because of that, Murphy got screwed over big time. Her bail is $2 million. They were trying to hope for like $300,000 because that way you only need to pay 10%. She has $30,000 on her, so that would have been enough to pay the bail. But it's like, no, you're like severely screwed now. Because basically they'd be paying almost the full bail that they were trying to aim for. The full bail would have been like $300,000 is what they were going for. Now they would have to be paying $200,000. So that's really sucky because none of them have that type of capital. None of them have that money. So, and Felix and them sadly haven't gotten that update yet, but they will. But the moment like that happened in court, once again, Josh giddy is, so giddy, so happy. He's like, oh my God, his dreams came true and such. But because of that, Murphy's stuck there and like, we saw like Sam ruminating in that cell. You're like, oh man, Murphy's going to get it hard because Sam, like all that shit you were talking about, Nia, Sam is going to get you so hard, Murphy. But luckily, Savannah took Murphy to the chapel and you're like, all right, they're hitting it off. And then the moment she's like, right, you're going to need friends in here, I was like, Savannah's dead. I didn't expect her to get murdered that quickly. I figured Sam was eventually going to murder her, but like later on in the season. First episode, man, they just hit it off, became friends. It's like, oh, I have this terrible drink that me and the other girls, cost me like $100 to make, get the tomatoes for it, it's terrible, the crackers and everything. It's like, you need a friend. I figured Savannah would be her lead to like, hey, you be a one ally in here. They've got each other's back. Like I said, I didn't expect Sam to kill her till like later on in the season. And I thought Savannah would be her end with like Paula, but it's like, nope. Sam's like, oh no, I went in there. I could have killed you, but I decided to kill an innocent girl. And you know why? Because her connection to you. I'm going to make it so that you're all alone. If anyone ever gets close to you, I'm going to kill them. And that's also going to put other people in a position of like, oh, we're going to stay the hell away from Murphy because she's marked for death by Sam. So there's kind of that element. So it's like, oh, cool. And when it's all said and done, after you've suffered, then I'm going to kill you. I mean, to be fair, Sam was kind of set on like, man, bump it. When I get the opportunity, I'm gonna kill Murphy because of what Felix said to her last season. Kind of set that off, and then Murphy talking shit about Nia setting Sam off even more has escalated things. So I mean, it worked out in the end because Sam would have taken this opportunity to kill you, but because you pissed her off, which is going to be Sam's undoing because she wanted to toy with you. That's her biggest issue because she's underestimating you. Nia underestimated you too. Granted, once again, it's not like you outsmarted her. It was just circumstances played out where Jess got the upper hand on her and just like caught her off guard and blow and protected you. So, it's not like Nia got outsmarted or whatever, but it's just, right, that's the problem is that everyone keeps underestimating Murphy. And that was also the whole thing they were trying to bring up in court. Like her defense attorney was like, oh, she's blind. It's like, well, because he hasn't had time to read over the entire case. He had just gotten it, so that kind of sucks. But Murphy knows what's like, right, I gotta go to get to Paula. It's like, right, we both want the same thing. We kind of can't stand Sam. We're going to try and remove her from the board, so let's work together. So at the very least for now, Murphy's got, at least that's the problem though. Working with someone like, I mean, it's like she got from under the whole Nia thing, but then it was the whole Josiah thing, and now it was like, right, you're right back here again. The devil Sam versus the devil you don't, Paula, and also you have no idea at the end what this is going to cost you, how that's going to complicate your own current circumstances, because like Paula's going to be like, oh cool, when you do get out, you're going to owe me a favor. We see that she does eventually get out, so like that's why I'm feeling like whatever her and Darnell are mixed up in at the end there, what we saw at the very, very beginning, the cold opening, I'm like, that has to be something in relation to Paula. I don't think it's a thing of like, oh, you're secretly working for the cops and doing something for them to take down this whole operation. It could be that. I think Josh would be super against that, but Gene and Sarah might be a little more keen to, like, right, Murphy's already inside of her organization. She could be the means we need. We'll cut you a deal. We'll slash time off because of this whole you helping us take down Paula thing. That could be the potential setup for that as well. Because, like, for her just to be out and about, then immediately getting mixed up in this. I mean, it's like, right, because the bail has already been removed, so either you got found not guilty in court, or this is all playing into the cop thing, or maybe it's you've got found not guilty, and I don't know if they would still want to work with you. I'm leaning towards more that I'm thinking the cops like Gene and Sarah end up using her as an insider, that she's kind of in their insider to Paula's organization to take it down, because once again Gene made it clear he doesn't want this city to be under the thumb of another Nia Bailey. So, and Josh is not going to be too happy about it if we go to that, right? Because I think that's definitely going to be where, like, obviously they had their ups and downs last season, but Gene, Josh, and Sarah were a really good team, but I think this episode alone shows you their priorities are like not in the same place. I mean, granted, it's all connected. Josh wanting to take Murphy down is going to be connected to this Paula thing, who is the one peddling these drugs, but he's more so focused on the Murphy side of things. He's like, right, because even last season, Gene was going to try and cut her a deal. And at the end, that's going to be the interesting thing. Yes, Murphy's DNA and all this, but we, as the audience, know, because Felix and Max weren't there. I think the only people who know the truth are Murphy and Jess, that Jess is the one who actually pulled the trigger. Like, I'm trying to remember. I don't think Max or Felix actually know that. I think they think, I don't remember. Because they try to take the fall being like, no, it was like one of them, or in particular, Felix was like, no, it was me who did it, but it's like, no, at the time they were tied up, so I don't think they know that Jess got there in time to shoot, so I think everyone, except for Murphy and Jess, know the truth that Jess is the one who pulled the trigger, but I could be mistaken. Someone I should also bring up too is it me or did Max just not, like, he seemed out of it this episode? I guess he's willing to help out with the Murphy thing, but it's just like the way when he was around Leslie's grandmother, like that, he just seemed out of it. So I guess it's just like, right, even when I'm trying to bow out from this, I'm still in the middle of all this. Like, I care about Murphy and everything, but, well, we'll see. He just seemed a little out of it this episode, but I'm very interested to see where all this ends up taking us. Excited to have In the Dark back. Sadly, very much like the Roswell, New Mexico situation, I mean, well, along with a lot of shows on this network, this In the Dark was canceled. So this is inadvertently the final season. Once again, that news dropped. Because they didn't go into this with it being the final season, but they might have written it in a way like, oh, in case we don't, once again, I always go back to The Magicians. Oh, it's written in a way where it can be a series finale or a season finale, depending on whether they got renewed for another season or not. But they didn't go into this knowing it was the final season. Once again, I don't know if there's enough time for them to edit, change, and film some extra stuff to kind of round it out to be a conclusive ending, or will it end on a cliffhanger, or will it end on enough of a cliffhanger where it's like, okay, it's a cliffhanger and you still want to know where things could go, but it's resolved enough that everything's okay. It just depends. So I'm either way, I'm for now, I'm excited to go on this journey and see where the hell this season ends up taking us. All the craziness I can only assume that's going to ensue. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.